Have you ever been lying awake, not because something is wrong, but because everything is possible? That's the strange modern ache, freedom. Too many doors, too many versions of you, and suddenly your life feels like a test you can fail. If that's familiar, like the video and subscribe to the channel, because we're going to go deep, gently, and honestly. Today we're focusing on one quiet trigger of existential crisis. The moment you realize no one is coming to choose for you, and every yes also becomes a life you'll never live. Freedom of choice sounds like a blessing until you feel what it demands. In the existential sense, freedom isn't just options, it's authorship. It's the realization that your life won't be validated by some final authority, and there's no certificate that says you chose correctly. Choice stops being preference and becomes commitment. It shapes your days, your character, and the person you'll be forced to meet in the mirror. When you choose a path, you don't only select an outcome, you select a self. A career is a rhythm and a trade-off. A relationship is a future with its own gravity. Even postponing a decision is still a decision, because time keeps moving. The mind senses the stakes and starts translating ordinary choices into existential ones. This could define me, this could cost me, this could close doors forever. That's why freedom can trigger an existential crisis. Not because life is meaningless, but because meaning isn't pre-installed anymore. Earlier in life, meaning often arrives through scripts, milestones, approval, expectations. Freedom breaks the script, and you're left with a bare, intimate question. What is worth building with the years you actually have? If freedom is the shock of realizing I have to choose, then 40 is often when that shock meets arithmetic. In your 20s, the horizon feels wide. Even when you're anxious, you can tell yourself you'll pivot later, reinvent later, begin later. But around 40 and beyond, later becomes a smaller country. Freedom starts sounding less like possibility and more like urgency. How will you spend what remains? This is why the pressure spikes. Your choices are no longer abstract. They have shape. You can see the life you built, and you can see, clearly, what you didn't build. In your younger years, the other versions of you are hazy fantasies. At 40, they're recognizable alternatives. Different work, different city, different risks you didn't take, different kind of love you never tested. The calendar becomes a mirror, and it reflects not only your age, but your priorities. Time also changes the emotional meaning of a decision. A choice at 25 can feel like an experiment. At 40, the same choice can feel like a declaration. Not because change is impossible, but because change now carries more cost. You're choosing inside a web of commitments you helped create. People rely on you, routines depend on you, responsibilities have momentum. That doesn't remove freedom, but it makes it heavier, because consequences are closer and more visible. Then there's sunk cost, the quiet hand on your shoulder. Years invested in skills, status, identity, and a story other people recognize. Walking away can feel like betraying your past self, even if your past self was doing the best they could, so freedom becomes a paradox. You can choose differently, but the life you've already chosen keeps tugging you back. Anxiety also grows from responsibility. When outcomes feel tied to your decisions, results start to feel like moral judgments. If things go well, you tell yourself it was luck. If things go badly, you tell yourself it was you. That self-verdict loop tightens the chest and turns living into constant self-monitoring. Irreversibility intensifies it. Time spent can't be refunded. Certain doors don't reopen. So the mind becomes obsessed with avoiding regret, and it starts running endless simulations, alternate futures, missed chances, imagined disasters, looking for the one choice that guarantees relief. But relief requires certainty, and life doesn't offer it. So planning quietly becomes paralysis. There's another layer people miss. Many choices aren't between good and bad. but between values: safety versus growth, loyalty versus truth, comfort versus meaning. When values clash, anxiety is the body's signal that you're carrying a real dilemma, not a simple decision. And a final midlife intensifier is clarity. By 40, you've watched right choices still lead to disappointment, and risky choices sometimes work out. You've learned that control is limited, that wisdom is real, but it also sharpens the question. If there are no guarantees, then applause can't be your compass. Fear can't be your compass. Meaning has to be. So midlife freedom asks with a sharper voice, if you can't live every life, which one will you fully live? What will you stand for? What will you trade your remaining years for? Freedom becomes anxiety when the nervous system interprets choice as exposure. The moment you choose, you place your future in contact with uncertainty. And uncertainty is exactly what the brain is designed to treat as threat. Your mind starts scanning, rehearsing, and predicting because it wants safety. It's not trying to ruin your life. It's trying to prevent pain. And here's the trap. If you treat anxiety as proof you're choosing wrong, you hand your life to a fear response. Anxiety often rises simply because you understand that your choices matter. The goal isn't to erase the feeling, it's to stop letting the feeling replace your judgment. Freedom gets even sharper when it fuses with identity, because now you're not just choosing a path, you're choosing whether you count as a success. In a healthier world, choices would be shaped by values and season. In our world, choices are treated like evidence. Your job becomes your worth, your relationship becomes your value, your lifestyle becomes your proof. So freedom doesn't feel like space, it feels like performance. That's the perfect life pressure. Modern culture turns existence into a project you must optimize. The best career, the best partner, the best body, the best habits, the best timeline. And when you don't hit that fantasy, the shame is cruel because it sounds logical. You had options, so why aren't you happier? The problem is that the fantasy is built to be unfinishable. If there's always a better option, your mind never rests. Comparison pours fuel on it. You don't see other people's inner lives, you see their edited results. Yet your nervous system reads those results as a scoreboard. You start measuring your meaning against someone else's highlight reel, and freedom becomes a hunt for validation, disguised as self-improvement. At 40 and beyond, this identity pressure often intensifies because the stakes feel public. You're choosing under the gaze of history. Your past decisions, your reputation, your family's expectations, your peers' milestones. The perfect life fantasy turns into a quiet judge asking, did you maximize your potential? Did you choose correctly? Did you become enough? And because perfection is impossible, even good choices start to feel suspicious, simply because you can imagine a different one. The truth is blunt. A perfect life isn't a life. It's an advertisement. Real life is trade-offs, limits, uncertainty, and seasons. Freedom becomes painful when you demand that it produce perfection and then punish yourself for being human. So how do you navigate freedom without collapsing? You don't need fewer choices. You need a steadier center. Ancient traditions treated freedom less as external permission and more as inner mastery. The ability to act without being owned by fear, craving, or applause. Start by changing the question. The anxious mind asks, what's the best choice? As if life is a puzzle with one correct answer. A wiser question is, what choice can I respect? Best expands forever. Respect stays grounded. In the Bhagavad Gita, the counsel is to commit to right action and release obsession with outcomes. When your self-respect comes from the quality of your action, uncertainty loses some of its power. Next, take responsibility without turning it into self-blame. The Stoic line from Enchiridion and Meditations is clean. Some things are yours, your intention, your effort, your judgment, and most things are not. Luck, timing, other people's responses. Anxiety explodes when you demand control over what isn't yours. It calms when you measure decisions by integrity, not by guarantees. Then simplify on purpose. The Tao Te Ching warns against forcing. The tighter you clutch, the more you suffer. Modern psychology echoes this in the paradox of choice. Too many options can increase paralysis and regret. So design your freedom. Create constraints that protect your mind. Limit research. Set deadlines. Choose a few non-negotiable values and let them filter your options before you fall into endless comparison. Embrace commitment as a form of liberation. Part of the terror of choice is the fantasy that you should keep every door open. But doors close anyway, quietly, through time. Commitment turns time into direction. It's the moment you stop auditioning identities and start living one, long enough for depth to grow. And learn to tolerate the discomfort that comes with becoming. Buddhist teaching in the Dhammapada is blunt. Attachment creates suffering. When you're attached to perfect certainty, perfect validation, and a perfect timeline, freedom becomes torture. Practice choosing without demanding that the choice remove all unease. Discomfort isn't always danger. Sometimes it's the sensation of growth. Finally, bring freedom back to the present. Choices feel monstrous when you treat them like lifelong verdicts. But life is built in moments. Take the next right step, then the next. Name your decisions in the language of values: courage, peace, truth, love, service, and let that language guide the day-to-day. Over time, you stop chasing the perfect life and start building a coherent one. Freedom isn't your enemy, the fear of choosing is. If you're in an existential crisis, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means autopilot is over. You don't need a flawless decision. You need a decision you can respect, aligned with your values, lived one day at a time. Drop a comment. What choice feels heaviest right now, and what value do you want it to reflect? And if you want to go deeper into this work, subscribe and join the journey. More is coming, and we'll keep walking it together.